Although I was born in 1986, I have a vast appreciation for all the video games that came out during that time. And in today's video, that is exactly what we are going to be talking about, is the top 5 video games of 1986.
Coming in at number 5 is Zelda.
Some might be surprised that The Legend of Zelda actually was number 5 on the list of 1986 top-selling games, with 1.2 million copies sold on the Famicom disc. Of course, it is heralded amongst retro gamers, and one that I was actually surprised to see at being number 5 for the time. Zelda is a fantastic game, and it is on my list as well as far as my top 5, but I will say this one for the times just added so much depth into the new age of RPGs. This was one of those games that, as a fellow geek, just kind of turned me out to the idea of getting into RPGs and also geek culture type games such as Hero Quest, D&D, etc. And like all of these games, if you haven't played it, I strongly suggest that you give The Legend of Zelda a shot.
Roy's pick for number 5, Adventure Island.
Adventure Island is such a great game. Even though I have yet to beat it, it's still one of those games that I go back to not only try to get retro achievements on, but also because I absolutely love the experience that I get while playing it. Games such as that have island type levels or water levels, I just absolutely love them, and they just take me back to a place when I was a kid on like a hot summer day, and just gives me all the vibes that I had when I was a child. And as I was saying, as far as not even beating the game yet, this does provide a great challenge for those of you out there that are looking for something that isn't just going to be an easy run through, and one you actually are going to have to try to figure out patterns as to what you need to do to progress through the game. Adding in the elements that give you an arcade style vibe as well is just another reason why I absolutely love Adventure Island.
Number 4, Twinbee.
Believe it or not, Twinbee, the vertical shoot-'em-up, outsold Zelda for the year 1986, coming in at 1.3 million copies on the Famicom disc. This is a shoot-'em-up that I personally have emulated multiple times. I get enjoyment out of it. It's not the most graphically intense thing, of course, being 8-bit, but I swear you will find enjoyment playing this game.
Roy's pick for number 4, Super Mario Brothers.
Ooh, yeah, maybe not a popular choice, but number 4 for me is Super Mario Brothers. This was actually my introduction to the NES, which was probably an introduction to most back during this time, but this was one that I absolutely loved and went back and played multiple times and still do to this day. The only reason why I don't have it higher up on my list is that I felt the games that are above it just brought a little bit more to the table for me, so to speak, and a little bit more replayability. But overall, of course, the original Super Mario Brothers, if you have not played it, you better give it a go. And if you don't like the 8-bit graphics, you can always at least go to the 16-bit route and play it on Mario All-Stars.
Number 3, Ninja Hattori.
Beating out both Zelda and Twinbee, Ninja Hattori-kun came in selling 1.5 million copies on the Famicom. This is one that I haven't personally played. However, I can definitely see, seeing the animations and the layout for this game, why it was so popular amongst the Japanese players. The ninja you play as in this game runs, jumps, throws ninja stars, all those good things that you expect from a game during this time period. And throughout the game, you get to unlock different abilities, different weapons, so that way it changes up the experience as you go along. I definitely feel like there's enough here to make it challenging even to newer gamers.
Roy's pick for number 3, Zelda.
I know this isn't going to be popular to a lot of you guys out there, but Zelda comes in at number 3 for me, and not saying that it is a bad game. I know people are going to get hung up thinking that, by God, how could you possibly have anything else above Zelda? Well, it all comes down to personal preference. This is my pick after all. I'm not just going to pick what you want me to pick. This is what I wanted to pick based off of my playstyle. But nonetheless, I absolutely love Zelda. Again, as I mentioned before, this was one of those games that kind of broke me into RPGs outside of Final Fantasy. This was the one that gave me that experience in real time outside of playing something that was turn-based.
Number 2, Super Mario Brothers.
Just to clarify, this Super Mario Bros. 2 was the one referred to as the Lost Levels on Mario All-Stars, as this one was released in Japan on the Famicom disc, selling 1.699 million copies. And for those that did not know, the reason why this one was not released in the United States is that they felt it would be too difficult for the American market. So then they went ahead and created the Super Mario Bros. 2 game that we all know in the States here today. Based off of those stats, unfortunately, it sounds like the Japanese culture took gaming way more seriously than what we did in the United States up to this point in time.
Roy's pick for number 2 is Ghosts and Goblins.
Oh yeah, that's right. Ghosts and Goblins, baby. This was one that I just could not beat for the longest time. I love the aesthetics of it. I love the gameplay. I just had such a hard time with this game. But nonetheless, it makes number 2 on my list because the draw and the replayability with this, it is just such a well put together game for the times. Even if you're a kid that hasn't played any sort of retro content, you can go back and play this game knowing that you will get a good challenge and walk away satisfied with your experience.
And the number 1 game from 1986 is none other than Super Mario Bros.
And of course, coming in hot at number 1 is Super Mario Bros., selling 4.27 million copies on the NES. And just think, this was technically a year after it was released. So just keep that in mind, guys, when I was talking about Zelda earlier when we go into 1987. But as I talked about earlier, Super Mario Bros. Is a fantastic game, and it's a great starter game for anybody looking to get into the retro side of gaming. There's enough here from the speed side of things to where you can kind of take your time, or if you want to try just doing some speed runs, you can do that as well.
Roy's pick for number 1 is Castlevania.
Oh yeah, Castlevania. It might not be the flashiest pick for number 1, but for myself, I felt Castlevania was such a well put together game. Looking back at 1986, I felt the action required in this game was just really, really good. And the way that they developed everything to have the little secrets where you could whip into walls and you would get items, or knocking stuff off of the walls, similar to like what you would see in Ninja Gaiden years later, it was a very good touch on the game. And when you compare it to the games that we mentioned earlier, there is a lot of graphical depth in Castlevania versus all the other games that we have on this list today. The soundtrack to this one as well, for it being 8-bit, I just felt was very, very well put together, and one that did not distract me while playing. Let me know what you guys thought about the games we talked about here today in the comments below, and then I will see you guys in the next video.
Super Retro Force.